Good morning, friends. Today we will discuss the difference between cess and surcharge. So, friends, this is just a very interesting topic and very confusing that what is the difference between cess and surcharge. So, let's discuss it. सबसे पहले हम डिस्कस करेंगे सेस के बारे में. Cess, in simple terms, a cess is a tax on tax. The Indian government levies it on the tax liability, including surcharge, and is used for a specific purpose. For example, the Indian government collects a cess on education and utilizes it specifically for that purpose alone, that is education. Moreover, this cess applies to all taxpayers. Further, cess taxes goes to the Consolidated Fund of India. It is vital to note that a cess must be applicable for that purpose alone for which it is charged. सो सेस बेसिकली है तो एक तरह का टैक्स ही, बट इट इज यूज फॉर सम स्पेसिफिक पर्पस. I would like to reiterate that the difference between cess and surcharge is that only that cess is for specific purpose and surcharge is not for a specific purpose. So हम आगे अगर देखें इसमें, what is surcharge? A surcharge applies to those person whose income is more than 50 lakhs. Like surcharge is currently applicable on income tax. This is an example. This money is not collected for any specific clause cause, but can be used for any reason as the union government seems fit. Interestingly, it applies to the tax payable and not the total income. This collection also goes to the Consolidated Fund of India and can be used for any purpose. So basically, जैसे हमने कहा, cess is for specific purpose, surcharge is not collected for any specific cause. Examples of cess. Here is an example to demonstrate how cess works. For an education cess of 3% where the personal income tax is 30%, a cess is applicable on this personal income tax. So friend, it doesn't mean that cess is only applicable on income tax. Cess can be applied on any other taxes. So this is an example on income tax. Say right now there is a cess of 4%. Here is an example of given as 3%. So if the cess is applied on 30% income tax, the total tax rate goes up to 30.9, that is 3% of 30%. If it is 4%, then it goes up 31.2%, which is currently 31.2. So the portion that is 0.9% goes for the purpose of education, that the government will spend it for the educational purposes, and the 30% is goes for the without any specific cause, as it is fit in budgets. For taking an example of surcharge, a significant source of government income is a surcharge on income tax. For example, right now a surcharge of 10% on the income tax rate of 30% raises the tax burden of to 33%. Currently, the surcharge is applicable on income tax for those people whose income is above 50 lakhs. So, to increase the tax rate, surcharge is levied without any specific cause, and it goes to the Consolidated Fund of India for the purposes as the union government may deem fit. So it's an example and types of cesses. There are various type of cess levied in India. There are infrastructure cess on motor cars, Krishi Kalyan cess on service value. It was applied earlier. Right now it is abolished. Swachh Bharat cess was again implied earlier, not applicable now. Education cess on crude oil, cess on exports, road and infrastructure cess, duty on tobacco and tobacco products, health and education cess, which is currently applicable. After the Kerala floods, the state government imposed a 1% calamity cess. It was the first state to do so. Remember that a cess is not a permanent revenue source for the government. Once the purpose for which the cess is levied is completed, it is removed. So cess is basically levied for temporary purposes and for some certain period, and it is usually removed once the purpose is resolved and the completed, I can say. So example of types of surcharge: significant source, as we said, it is on income tax. Surcharge on income tax is an example of surcharge. So we have a gist also. What is the difference between cess and surcharge? Cess rate stands fixed at 4%. Like I am just saying, cess rate is fixed when it is applied, whereas the surcharge can vary. It varies depending upon the income of the taxpayer. It has a rate of 15% as well. So depending upon the income, it has slabs and accordingly surcharge applies. But whereas in the case of cess, it will always be fixed. Remember, we have the main difference that cess is for specific purpose, surcharge is not for any specific purpose. Authorities calculate cess on the surcharge. So when the cess is applicable and surcharge is also applicable, surcharge is firstly calculated, that is applicable only on tax amount. After calculating and including the surcharge value, the cess applies on surcharge as well, whereas surcharge do not. Government levies cess on every taxpayer. So it is for specific purpose, it levies to all persons on which the tax levied. So surcharge doesn't levy, like for currently on income tax, surcharge levies only on the persons who are having higher taxable income. Here, authorities use cess for particular purpose only and cannot use it for any arbitrary reason. Surcharge, on the other hand, can be used for any reason. The reason doesn't have to be specified. Cess aims to raise fund for some particular expenditure cost, like we just discussed that Kerala government has employed the calamity cess to cope up with the increased expenditure on the rehabilitation and to restore the activities. They employed the calamity cess, and once the situation normalized, they removed it. The surcharge aims to place a tax burden on those who is having income. This is basically a concept to tax those who is having higher income. So what are the similarities between cess and surcharge? The central government levies both. Cess and surcharge both are collected and taken into the consolidated fund of India. State government cannot share any of this. So earlier we have discussed the differences, but it has similarities. Central government can levy both. Both are taken into the consolidated fund of India. State government cannot share any of this. सो थैंक यू फ्रेंड्स. अगर आपका कोई क्वेरी हो तो आप profsindia.com पे पोस्ट कर सकते हैं. स्टे ट्यून एंड प्लीज सब्सक्राइब टू आवर चैनल. थैंक यू.